Yeah, I've seen lots of people that downsize way ahead of the curve, and you're like, oh, here we go, dial 9-1 and wait, and it works out fine.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I'm glad that my conservative impulses were not warranted. That it wasn't necessary to slow this person down. They had the skills. They had the ability to think their way through the situation with quick decisions. But that's not always the case. Better safe than sorry works for most things in this sport. There's naturals, and then I mean, it reminds me of the old pilot thing. The superior pilot uses the superior judgment to not being forced into a corner where you gotta use your superior skills. The homeostasis of risk. You guys ever heard that term? I think it's something that pulls us all the time. That we have this level of normalcy, mundane consciousness, where it's kind of, it's fine, but it's nothing, really exciting. I'm not going to even remember most of what happens when I'm in that state of mind. And then I have an experience where I up the level of risk in some way, psychological or physical risk, which all comes down to psychological anyway. And it draws me into attention. I'm really into it. And it really, the cells in my body, my limbic system, everything is awakened. And that bends over the page, the corner of the page. And it says, this is a memory that I must, retain long term, due to that adrenaline, due to that state of the body. And then you go back in exactly the same circumstances, same wing loading or parachute or motorcycle that you're riding or whatever. And because you've done it, in the past, there's a little less of a response physiologically. And so now we're like, well, I don't have that heightened level of awe. I need it. I want it. And that's where the addiction comes in, that pushes us towards higher and higher levels of risk so we can feel the same. So that's the homeostasis. Is not about the risk and the skill that balances it, but the perception of the risk that's sort of causing this specific experience, this specific emotional tone. So it's the adrenaline addiction that's the problem. When the kids that are base jumping are like, I need more, I gotta, like, because they're doing it for the body buzz instead of for the mind buzz. The experience of doing something amazing that you're assigning value to, as opposed to something that's so intense that you have no choice but to have an emotional reaction. That's the inner numbness, needing to feel stimulation. Call that stimulus addiction. It leads people to take risks that are unreasonable, outside of the scope of their skill set. And that's I mean, that's kind of a long story of what homeostasis of risk is, but we're all dealing with it.
It's a potential skydive radio topic, is how to communicate, just in any of those situations, and how maybe making better decisions, not downsizing.
Yeah.
It's a weird spot to be in, where I think people, to an extent, should have the opportunity to make those decisions if they're only affecting themselves. Let's hypothetically say
Yeah.
that's the case.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a tough spot to be in. Like, same with my buddy. Like, he has done great on his landing. There's lots of reasons that he seems like he is capable of handling it, and I don't have enough experience to say that. And I'm also very much on I don't like ever kind of, oh, you shouldn't do this. I'm very like, I don't really believe in that objectively.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a weird topic to be in, or sorry, an interesting topic, is how to communicate with people. Like, don't do this.
Yeah. In a way that doesn't flare up their defenses and their ego.
Right, right, right.
Right. Because we are trying to nurture confidence. That's part of pilot training, is getting people to believe in themselves. So you don't want to be beating them down, but at the same time, to make a logical case for why they need to approach this from the perspective of conservatism, and maybe a better word, because that causes all sorts of transference when you say conservative, but in a way that where you're well within your skill set, that your skill set is enough to handle, pretty much all the situations? Or are you tangent to it? Are you on the far end of what you can do, where something weird happens and now that's the straw that broke the camel's back?
Yeah.
Excuse
There's definitely a trend.
me. I'm dying here.
There's a trend with a lot of skydivers, well, not even skydivers, humans, I'll say, that we bring our egos into things, and not only do we bring it, but we're fragile about it. There's a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
like I've
Yeah.
noticed that with so many things is just there's this fragility of maybe not being ready to go on a jump, maybe a free fly jump that you're not ready for, not being ready to downsize, not being,
Yep.
and it's just this culture that it's just a mistake. And I've always tried to, I'm sure I have it too, we're human, but I've always tried to keep that away as much as possible and be the one that's, for example, if I ask a few people that are more experienced than me if they want to free fly, and they
Yep.
say no, just directly to me, there's a few people in drop zone that'll just go no.
Yep.
And that can be, we might be fragile about it and be offended about it, but I try to bring it. It's like, it's okay that I'm not big enough for the head down angle yet. That's fine. Like I will be one day. Or if I have to tell a friend that's a buddy of mine that
Yeah.
they can't come on a free fly jump I'm doing. It's not that I'm better. It's not that there were, it's just that you haven't done it yet and you're going to be above and you'll be far away and it won't even be fun for you.
Right.
We
Right.
need to get rid of the fragility of this. It's fine. You're just not,
Yeah.
you haven't done it yet. It's okay. You will one day.
Yep.
Anyway,
Yep.
I think it's a
Yeah.
mistake.
Yeah. Being secure in your self-image, knowing that this is part of a long journey. All right. That it really helps, because everything is so now. Right. I want to be done being a grown-up skydiver. You know what I mean? I want to be one of the cool kids. And we're never fully there. We're always in the process. Even you guarantee there's one guy on Arizona airspeed that feels like he's the slow one. You know what I mean? That behind, or he's, doesn't, they have more jumps than me, more experience or whatever. And he feels that too. Everybody does, to a certain degree. And the ego is a very insecure lie that we tell ourselves, the solid sense of self.
Yeah.
It's a lie.
And it's also that I think if we can recognize, just to be more adults about it and that our experience levels, and also recognize that that is a benefit to the sport and a benefit
Yes.
to all this is that even Brian Germain might miss a target every now and then, that even
Sure.
somebody with 15
Especially this year.
that,
They've been a little
that
off this year.
we take it so, and I'm guilty of this tenfold, but we take it so seriously that
Yeah.
when I fuck up a landing, it's
Yeah.
just an opportunity that I'm not
Yes.
done yet, and also that you never will be, that you will
Yep.
still fuck
It,
up.
it's
Uh,
just data. It's just data, right? It's information about what you did. It is the natural consequence of your actions. It's not who you are. It's, you know what I mean? It's not a tattoo on your face. This is simply just an evidence of a model, a mindset, a method. Change your method. If you don't like the result, change the method.
it's all
But
good
don't get attached.
opportunities. Yeah, if I fuck up a landing nowadays, I try to put the shame aside, which I take it very seriously, and I feel shame when I mud on my rig. But I
Yeah.
try to say like, well, don't on the next one
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
better. Like it's just an opportunity. Anyway,
Yeah.
story short, I think we need to try to help the culture with that and be okay to
Yes.
just say no if you can't go on the jump yet. It's fine. It makes
Yep.
sense.
Yep.
I've already spent 50 jumps of my 300 that just it should have been a solo. It didn't even end up being, and why even waste that, Anyway,
Yeah. Well, you didn't waste it. You spent it learning what you don't want to do again.
yeah,
Getting in over your head and that kind of thing. That's
yeah,
you have to feel it. Because if I just prevent my kid from playing with something dangerous, then what I'm establishing is a relationship of kind of punitive and protective and power over and power under. But if I sort of allow a little bit more freedom to experience, then they get to stand on the other side of the line and go, "Oh, I get it." It's just we can't do that with everything.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You can't do that with a moving train. He'll learn his lesson. No, no, he won't. He'll just be dead. Yeah.
Yeah, these days, after many times that happening on jumps, many of which are me backsliding or something, I
Yeah.
would say like if we're not 25 at least feet away from each other, then it should be a solo. I
Yeah.
want to see your face. That's
Yeah.
what you do when you jump together. I don't want to be, and again, you have to learn, so there's no judgment there. It's just at a certain point we should be okay that it's not going to be the jump we want yet. Yeah.
Yep. That's fine. That's fine. Well, it's the jump we need because it is the logical conclusion of our skills up till now. That's all. It's a logical conclusion to the plan that we've made up till now. Maybe we need to refine that plan. And that's fine. But the ego that we're dealing with skydivers, I think in most cases is less of a problem than we see out there in the wide world. People show up here really wanting to learn. You have their attention because of the risk, and they tend to be pretty open-minded. But it's all a microcosm of the human conscious collective. The ego, the mind that says, "I am my most recent performance." You know what I mean? That success that I had last year is irrelevant because it was so long ago. What have I done for me lately? What have I done for my reputation lately? And the toilet bowl keeps getting flushed. It's like you should hang on to the experiences that you've had that are demonstrating your skills, demonstrating your awareness, and remember that that's who you are, and everything else was just falling short of what you intended anyway, which means it's not you. The mistake, the mud, the green leg strap, and I think that sense of grace, of the ability to forgive what occurred so that you can pivot on that point, instead of looking backwards after it occurs and going, oh yeah, that sucked. And let me tell you more about why that sucked and how it sucked and why I think I sucked. To pivot on that point and go, what's next? Let's start talking about the next jump, how that's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
You know,
I
you've got
remember
to
when I was
about face.
when I was a student and every jump was like terrifying and unpredictable, or just you didn't, lots of things I hadn't done yet.
Yeah.
I remember thinking I want nothing more than to get to a point where none of this fear scares me anymore, or I can predict, that I can do these things. Then I got licensed, and in about a week, boy, did I miss those student jumps where I
Yeah.
just you
Yeah.
realize like
You're
that.
babied, right? We take
Yeah,
care of
yeah.
you. Somebody's
Well,
watch.
it was that, but also a little bit of just like I realized that I was missing the fun and the experience of the unpredictability of the having to do a front flip going 120 miles an hour and never having done that. And I
Yeah.
took it so seriously and held on to what I thought I wanted that
Yeah.
now I hear the music from the Spaceland edits, the jumps, and I miss that. I really
Yeah.
do. And so I try to tell students that I'm like, and your first tandem, whatever it is, I'm like, just try to realize that like
Yeah.
this is good stuff. This is not
Savor it.
the boring part. This
Yep.
is the fun part.
Yeah. Savor it. Yeah. This is the epic journey, from woofo to skydiver, that early phase of it. You're so wide awake. It's so exciting and fun and weird. And it later on, it becomes, you get a little numb to it. I remember I was having a conversation about this very thing with John LeBlanc years ago. And he said, yeah, I've realized something about skydivers is that once we get good at it, we become cool. And by being cool, we don't show emotion, don't land with exuberance. You're not, you're trying to say, well, yeah, no big deal. See, I didn't even get my heart rate up. Look how good I am, how calm I can be despite the danger. But that costs us something. The beginner's mind is what the Buddhists call that. The beginner's mind is a beautiful thing. And we have to constantly refresh that perspective. We have to go back into the not knowing, the grace of not being so certain, and the grace of going, wow, you zoom out of it, you're under canopy, you have that moment instead of just like going in normal mode. I'm going to set up my downwind, and you have this moment of like, holy shit, I'm under canopy. To step out of that is awesome. And that's the perspective I got from dying, from being out of my body and coming back. You know what I mean? From being game over to, oh, nope, no, sorry, do over. You get to, and that has been so good for me. I wish I could do a better job of sharing that perspective of how lucky we are for the tiny, stupid little things of sitting there eating a yogurt. You know what I mean? The smell of flower, you see a butterfly come by or whatever. Every little thing is a freaking miracle. And we're all acting like it's no big deal. We're acting cool. I'm seasoned.
Yeah, it's a mistake. Anytime you're on the plane and you're like, this is nothing, that's a lot. It's
It's,
something every time. It's terrifying every time. It's awesome every time. I
yeah,
don't care if it's a belly two-way or a free fly. It's a mistake. That's a lot. Yeah.
yeah,
Or you wouldn't be on that plane. If
yeah,
it was really bowling, you wouldn't keep doing it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That appreciation, and I find when I have that, 10,000 foot view of my life in general and this specific moment, it wakes me up in a way out of the mundaneness of it that allows me to see more details, see more differences instead of being in this like a dream, a hypnosis state where I'm seeing more what I expect to see instead of seeing what's really there. Those little distinctions that make this moment different from every other moment that's ever been. Um, that is it leads me to be better. Not only to be safer to see that canopy out of the corner of my eye, but also it allows me to activate more of my neural network. I'm alive and awake when I'm in this moment of holy shit, wow. you know to be in awe of a moment activates a side of me that has a spontaneity, has a creativity to it. And that's I don't know. For me, that's I try to leverage that as much as possible because my skill seems to live there.